Have you ever shifted out of park on a slope and felt that heavy metallic clunk? Not a click. A clunk like something inside the transmission just let go of a weight it was never supposed to be holding. If you know exactly the sound I'm talking about, your transmission has been trying to warn you for years. After 20 years in shops and more than 3,000 cars on my lift, I can tell you that clunk is one of the most misunderstood sounds in all of car ownership. And here's the part that's going to bother you. The damage behind it is caused by something you do every single day, probably several times a day, and the fix costs nothing. It's a lever that's already in your car, one that most drivers under 60 haven't touched in years. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that clunk is, what it's slowly doing to a part the size of your finger, and the 4-second parking habit that keeps transmissions alive past 300,000 miles. Let's start with what you're actually doing wrong. When you pull into a parking spot, I'd bet money your routine looks like this. You brake to a stop, you shift straight into park, you take your foot off the brake, the car rocks forward an inch or two, and you get out. That rock forward is the moment everything goes wrong. Here's what's physically happening. Inside your automatic transmission, the only thing connecting park to the wheels is a component called the parking pawl. It's a small steel lever, roughly the size of your index finger, that drops into a notched wheel on the transmission's output shaft. When that pawl is seated in a notch, the output shaft can't turn and the drive wheels can't roll. That's it. That's park. Not a clamp, not a brake, not some heavy-duty locking mechanism spread across the whole transmission. One small piece of steel, holding back 2 tons of vehicle. When you let the car rock forward after shifting into park, you're transferring the entire weight of the vehicle onto that pawl, every pound of it. On flat ground, that's a strain the pawl can tolerate for a while. On any kind of slope, a driveway, a parking garage ramp, a street with a crown in it, you're wedging that little lever into its notch under load, hour after hour, night after night. That clunk, when you shift out of park, that's the pawl fighting its way back out from under the weight of your car. Steel grinding against steel, under pressure, in a component that was never designed to carry that load in the first place. And it gets worse if you're one of the millions of drivers who shift into park while the car is still creeping forward. Even at half a mile an hour, you're asking a spring-loaded steel lever to slam into a spinning notched wheel. Sometimes it ratchets that rapid clicking you might have heard. Sometimes it catches hard and the whole car lurches. Either way, metal is hitting metal in a place where the tolerances are measured in thousandths of an inch. Now here's the hidden truth, and it's the reason almost nobody parks correctly anymore. The parking brake in your car, that lever between the seats, or the small pedal by your left foot, or the electronic switch on the console was never meant to be an emergency brake. Somewhere along the way, drivers started calling it that, and manufacturers let the name stick. So an entire generation decided it was only for emergencies and stopped using it. That's exactly backwards. Your owner's manual, the one nobody reads, tells you to set the parking brake every time you park, not on hills. Every time. The parking brake is designed to hold the full weight of the vehicle through the rear brakes components built specifically to absorb and hold that kind of force. The pawl was only ever meant to be a backup. So why doesn't anyone tell you this at the dealership? Think about who profits when a transmission fails outside of warranty. A transmission that dies at 140,000 miles instead of lasting to 280,000 isn't a defect to a manufacturer. It's a trade-in. Dealers know the pawl is the weakest link in the whole transmission, and they know exactly how most people park because they watch customers do it on the lot all day long. I've never once heard a salesperson walk a buyer through the correct parking sequence. Not one time in 20 years. But knowing the theory is one thing. What I've pulled out of transmissions that spent years holding cars on driveways is something else entirely. And once you see what that pawl looks like at the end, you'll understand why I stopped staying quiet about this. Let me walk you through what this habit actually does inside the case, because once you can picture it, you'll never park the same way again. A healthy parking pawl has crisp, squared edges. It drops into the notched wheel cleanly and it releases cleanly. When you carry the car's weight on it for years, those edges start to round over. The steel deforms under load a few thousandths of an inch at a time. Here's why that matters. A rounded pawl doesn't seat fully anymore. It sits shallower in the notch with every year that passes, which means the same weight is now pressing on less and less metal. The load doesn't shrink. The surface holding it does. And the notched wheel it locks into is cut directly into the transmission's output shaft assembly. When the pawl edges wear, the notches wear with them. You're not damaging one cheap replaceable part. You're damaging the shaft that everything else in that transmission turns around. Now think about what it takes to replace a parking pawl. The part itself costs less than a tank of gas, but it lives deep inside the case, which means the transmission has to come out of the car and get opened up to reach it. You're paying for a transmission removal to replace a piece of steel the size of your finger. And if the notched wheel is chewed up too, and after years of this, it almost always is, you're not repairing anymore. you're rebuilding. There's a worse ending than the expensive one though. A pawl that's worn far enough doesn't just get noisy, it lets go. The most common version happens on an incline. The rounded pawl is sitting shallow in a worn notch. The car rocks and the pawl pops out. If you're lucky, it skips one notch and catches the next with a bang that shakes the whole car. If you're not lucky, it doesn't catch at all, and a vehicle with nobody in it starts rolling. I want you to sit with that for a second. The failure mode of this habit isn't just a repair bill, it's your car, in motion, with your kids or your neighbor's kids somewhere behind it. I've had transmissions on my bench where you could read the whole history in the metal. I've torn down hundreds of automatics past 120,000 miles, and the pattern never misses. The ones from drivers who use the parking brake have pawls that look nearly new edges sharp, notches clean. You could reuse every piece. The ones that spent their lives holding the car alone are rounded off like a bar of soap with bright polished wear marks where steel has been grinding on steel every morning and every night. Same transmission design, same mileage, two completely different futures, decided by a 4-second habit. If you want it in dollars instead of metal, here's what it looks like when the bill comes due. A school bus driver from Grand Rapids brought me her 2016 Honda CR-V a while back. 8 years of parking on the same sloped driveway, straight into park, foot off the brake, rock forward. Done. She came in because shifting out of park had gone from a clunk to a graunch her word, and honestly, the right one. By then, the PAL was rounded, the notches were peened over, and the output assembly needed to come apart. The bill was $2,865, not for a failure, for a habit. The part that stays with me is what she said when I explained it. Nobody had ever told her the parking brake was for every day. 8 years, 4 school runs a day in her own car before her shift, and the fix the whole time was a lever 6 inches from her right hand. Quick reminder, if this is saving you money, hit that subscribe button now. It helps us keep making videos like this. That's what the wrong habit costs. Here's what the right one looks like, and I want you to notice it takes less time than checking your mirrors. The correct parking sequence has 4 steps, and once it's a habit, it takes about 4 seconds. Step 1. Come to a complete stop with your foot on the brake pedal. Fully stop the speedometer at 0. No creep, no roll. If the car is moving at all when park engages, that POWL is meeting a spinning wheel, and you already know what that costs. Step 2. While your foot is still on the brake pedal, set the parking brake. Pull the lever until it's firm, press the pedal until it's seated, or flip the electronic switch, whatever your car has. Don't baby it. A parking brake set at half tension holds half a car. Step 3. This is the one almost everybody skips, and it's the step that actually saves your transmission. With the parking brake set, ease your foot off the brake pedal and let the car settle. It'll shift its weight onto the parking brake, you'll feel it take the load. That settle is the whole point. The rear brakes are now holding the car, not the transmission. Step 4. Now shift into park, and that's the entire fix. Stop, set the brake, let it settle, then park. Do it in that order, and the PAL drops into its notch carrying nothing at all. It just rests there as a backup, exactly the way the engineers who designed it intended. You'll know it's working the very next time you leave. Shift out of park on a slope after parking this way and listen. No clunk, no graunch. The lever slides out of gear like the car is brand new because the PAL isn't trapped under 2 tons of pressure anymore. One more thing while we're here, because I get asked this every winter. If you live somewhere cold and you've heard that parking brakes freeze, that was a real problem on cars with neglected, rusty cables from 30 years ago. Modern cables are sealed, and electronic parking brakes don't even have an exposed cable to freeze. Use it daily, and it stays free. It's the parking brake that sits untouched for years that seizes up. And if your parking brake feels weak or travels too far before it grabs, get it adjusted. That service ran a customer of mine $86 last month, and it's the cheapest transmission protection money can buy. 2 more pieces, because I know somebody watching parks on a real hill every night. On a steep grade, add one thing to the sequence: turn your front wheels before you shut the car off. Facing downhill, turn them toward the curb. Facing uphill with a curb, turn them away from it so the back of the tire rests against the concrete if the car moves. No curb at all, turn them toward the edge of the road. Now if the parking brake and the PAL both let go, the car steers itself into a curb instead of into traffic. It's the seatbelt of parking. You'll probably never need it, and the one time you do, it's everything. Now, if you've been parking wrong for 10 or 15 years, you're probably wondering whether the damage is already done. Here's how to check without a lift. Find a gentle slope, come to a full stop, and shift into park the old way, no parking brake. Keep your foot ready over the brake pedal. Ease off and pay attention to 2 things: how far the car rolls before park catches, and what it sounds like when it does. A healthy POWL catches inside an inch or 2 with a firm, single click. If the car rolls several inches, or the engagement lands with a deep clunk you can feel through the floor, or you've ever heard a rapid ratcheting before it caught, that POWL is telling you its edges are going. That test doesn't mean your transmission is finished. It means the backup system is compromised, and from today forward, forward, the parking brake isn't optional for you. It's the only thing standing between that worn pawl and the repair bills I'm about to show you. Now let's put the numbers side by side, because this is where most drivers underestimate what they're protecting. The fix costs $0.04. Worst case, an $86 adjustment if your parking brake has been asleep for a decade. The habit you've been running instead has a price ladder, and every rung is worse. You already heard what a worn powel and chewed output assembly cost the school bus driver. Let it go further to the point where the transmission needs a full rebuild, and you're staring at an invoice like the $4,912 one I handed a customer this spring for a unit that spent 12 years holding a truck on a boat ramp driveway. And the scale of this problem is bigger than my shop. The Automatic Transmission Rebuilders Association has reported for years that the overwhelming majority of transmission failures trace back to preventable causes, not defects, not bad luck, but heat, neglect, and driver habits that load the transmission in ways it wasn't built for. This habit is on that list, and it's the only one on the list you can fix without spending a dime or opening the hood. Drop a comment below, be honest. When was the last time you used your parking brake on flat ground? I read everyone, and I already know what most of them are going to say. Here's the bottom line. Your transmission was built to move your car, and your parking brake was built to hold it 4 seconds a day, keeps each one doing its own job. If you want to know which transmission button in your truck, most drivers have never pressed the one that can save you a 4-figure repair before your next tow, click the video on the left. I'll see you there.